The Russians are pumping disinformation into the UFO community, says Sean Cahill, famous from the USS Nimitz incident. This is amazing. This is an incredible claim, so let's get into it. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. Please follow me on social media. Facebook and Twitter links are below. I would love to interact with you guys there. And please comment below as I'm going through the story. You can find other ways to support me also in the description below. Okay, so we have known for years that the government, the U.S. government, has been pumping disinformation into the UFO community. Famously, Richard Doty did that. He's probably the guy that's most famous for doing that. Obviously, he was just an agent of the government. He didn't do that on his own. And he was feeding false intelligence to, Bill Moore and Linda Moulton Howe and others. And, he caused a lot of harm, and a lot of, false information got out there. We don't even know what's false and what's not anymore. Well, apparently he wasn't alone. Sean Cahill is now saying that the Russians also pumped disinformation into the UFO community. So let's talk a little bit about that, but first let's hear what exactly he had to say. Here goes.
This is not a simple subject. It has been tainted with misinfo and disinfo over the years, and people should define what those things mean for themselves. They're very different things. But the ufology community itself for years has been targeted by Russian disinfo. They really enjoy putting conspiracy and hyperbole and things like that into the American zeitgeist to confuse American folks. People should not be surprised about that. So examining our I would actually say our national and international confirmation bias as to what we expect, what we can deliver, and then truly asking the really hard questions. This is not a simple subject.
Boom, there you have it. According to Sean, there is disinformation being pumped in by foreign sources into the UFO community. It would have been nice if he had given a little evidence or a little proof of this, because it's kind of hard to accept people's claims without some sort of evidence or proof. Presumably, he now has sources that are telling him this. Of course, those sources themselves could be disinformation agents. Entirely possible. But, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was disinformation being pumped into the UFO community from Russia or China or whoever. I mean, our own government is doing it. Why not them? What would be an example of disinformation? Many people think that the MJ12 documents are an example of disinformation. Now, I think that is entirely likely. And it's a very detailed, very complex hoax if that's what happened. And, an actual piece of very deliberate and targeted disinformation. And, that's a really interesting case. Obviously, it doesn't really matter if MJ12 existed or not. I mean, we do know from the JFK document dump that there was something called MJ12, and it was highly secretive in that JFK was interested in it. It was referred as to Cold War psychological warfare or something. So could that be, the disinformation program or something like that? Is that possible? I don't know. MJ12 did exist. Was it really the UFO control group? I don't know. But I do think that it doesn't matter. Obviously, there is a control group. There is somebody managing this for the government, possibly a coalition of governments, as I've talked about before, but most certainly the U.S. government. They are almost certainly leading the charge if there is a coalition. and they are managing all the other countries and roping them into cooperation. At least that's my take. But yes, there is somebody that is managing all of this and who is orchestrating all of this. So call them MJ12, the breakaway civilization, the control group, the Area 51 guys, whatever you want to call them. I like the control group. It's just easier. And to me, it almost certainly has to be the control group that is sending out this disinformation. Why else would they do it? Well, you know, Richard Doty has, and people like him have said that they are doing it to, conceal experimental aircraft. The UFO community was, they were worried Russian agents were among the UFO community and using the UFO community to gather intelligence and spy on Air Force bases. And so they were pumping this information in there for the benefit of the Russians, to spread disinformation among the Russians. And along the way, they did a lot of harm in spreading false intelligence among the UFO community, to the point where we really don't know where the lies end and the truth begins. So it is really interesting that the Russians, according to Sean Cahill, are doing the same thing as sending disinformation back. What would they be sending back? So the false intelligence may or may not be coming, or some. I'm getting my thoughts are scattered on this. Let me clarify that I believe that the control group is almost certainly feeding false information to the public. And they have been managing the propaganda that has turned the UFO topic into a fringe topic. And they are almost certainly sending out false information into the UFO intelligence or UFO community. And there is probably either a related or non-related group, the Richard Doty people, who are sending out false information through the UFO community to the Russians. So now we have a separate group of the Russians, or at least outside agents. It could be Chinese, could be anybody, feeding false information into us. So what would an example of that be? We've had several Russian whistleblowers that have come forward lately, and we have Russian documents that have leaked out, that have been declassified, talking about Russian encounters. Could some of that be disinformation? Well, maybe. Why would they put that out there? Well, maybe to convince us that they have some alien technology, to dismay us or give us pause in attacking them. Possibly. Some people believe that some of the UFO advocates, or the disclosure advocates, and people coming forward and talking about this publicly, are disinformation agents. Some have pointed to UFO personalities that have been on RT, the Russian Times, like Nick Pope. Some have accused him of being a disinformation agent for appearing on Russian Times. Well, he's a former Ministry of Defense official in the UK. The Fox Mulder of the UK. Is he really going to be pressured by Russia into feeding out false intelligence through his appearances on Russian Times? To me, that doesn't quite pass the sniff test. I think that if they were pumping out false information, it probably wouldn't be through the Russian Times. It would be a little more subtle than that. But, that's just me. But yeah, so what would an example of false intelligence, false, disinformation look like? What would that look like? Or, because the idea of, in my mind, of, spreading disinformation among the community is so that we don't know the truth. But it's also more complicated than that, because as I've discussed already, the powers that be will use the UFO community to spread disinformation to other countries. The U.S. government using the UFO community against the Russians could, or the Chinese, whoever, could be using the UFO community against the Americans. So how do we know what's real and what's not? We don't, I guess, or at least I don't. You just have to use your own inner discernment. I guess we need to discipline ourselves to be as discerning as possible. But if not to spread information through the UFO community to the U.S. government, why else would the Russians or the Chinese, whoever, be feeding false intelligence to us? Is it because they have their own control group and they don't want people to know the truth of, alien involvement or non-human involvement on Earth? Are they trying to hide information the same way that the U.S. control group or whatever it is doing? What motivations could they have for doing that other than feeding false intelligence to the U.S. government? Well, you could say that maybe they're working with one group of beings and we're working with another group of beings, because we certainly are. According to countless experiencers, they have seen the beings working alongside U.S. officials and military types. And, some of these people that have come forward with this information are highly credible and have been vetted, like the Terry Lovelace case that I love to talk about. Well, he has been vetted by no less than Lou Elizondo. So these are credible guys coming forward with this information. And we also know that we are firing at UFOs, and that in some cases, UFOs are firing at us. So if we are working alongside one group of beings, shooting at another, could it be that some other country is working with another group of beings, and they are the ones firing at us and that we are at war with, and maybe the aliens are using different countries as a proxy war against each other? They're using us to fight each other. I don't know, guys, but those are some of my thoughts. Let me know what you think about all this craziness in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Please join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. And please, if you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below, and there's 2 tiers of membership to receive exclusive access in videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.